Diablo 4 dropped a cascade of bombshells this week. The devs are eyeing more torment tiers, solo self-found, sanctification improvements, and they all but confirmed the exact expansion reveal date. We've also got hints of bigger crafting and skill tree updates, future leaderboard rewards, titles, fonts, even Halo cosmetics, more stash, loot filters, and more. Beyond that, Path of Exile's new league slaps. GTA 6 is having huge controversy this week. The UK government literally debated stop killing games. Nintendo's patent crusade is under fire by the US government, and more. Hey folks, this is Rhykker, and I dig into ARPG and gaming news so that you can spend more time playing games. Chapters below to skip to different topics. But before we move on, a word from this video's sponsor, Boot.dev. Boot.dev has gamified learning to code. They've built an online programming course into a fun programming RPG. You complete quests, you gain XP, you level up, you earn achievements, all while learning fully at your own pace. Boot.dev believes that the smartest way to learn to code is to ensure you're never bored. With this program, you'll learn Python and Go, back-end web development from start to finish, and it's designed to get you to write a ton of code since they believe that practice is the only way to really learn coding. Back in college, I took a programming course in Visual Basic, and I remember having to learn the most boring stuff and just kept thinking about how can I apply this to something that's actually fun. So I tried out boot.dev, and literally from lesson 1, we're doing fun stuff. They frame it like we're building a video game, not some dull accounting software. Here's my dashboard. I'm level 10, working on the final lesson in chapter 5. So let's do this lesson together. It's trying to teach us about tracebacks, basically how to read errors in our code. So we hit run here, and we can read in the traceback, there's an indentation error, it seems. So I think up here, yeah, this is indented too much. Let's try running again. And okay, different error this time. Syntax error on line 3. Oh, looks like they forgot to close the parenthesis. Let's try running that. Hey, all right, submit. And we got it. And if you ever find yourself struggling, you can consult with Boots, an AI bear wizard that's been trained in every lesson and can walk you through your issues. But you could always just look at the solutions as well if you want to see the instructor's code. So click the link in the description and use my code Rhykker to get 25% off your first year on the annual plan of Boot.dev. Starting off with Diablo 4 news, game director Zaven Harudian and lead systems designer Colin Feiner had a few interviews this week with content creators, including Rax, Rob, and Duck from Korea. I'll link each below for you folks to check out for yourselves, but I'll go over some takeaways. First off, the devs are looking at adding more torment difficulties. That was a big motivation for the defense rework. Now, I know a lot of players have been asking for a Torment 5 difficulty for a long time now because Torment 4 is too easy. I've always been opposed to doing this, and I continue to be. I lived through Diablo 3's lifespan from launch to today. I saw it balloon up to 20 different difficulty modes, and we only ever played on like 4 of them. We already have 8 difficulty modes in Diablo 4. Normal, hard, expert, penitent, and then 4 torment levels. With every added difficulty, each individual difficulty has less and less significance. I would rather make Torment 4 more difficult than add more torment levels. I'd rather have ways to juice our difficulty, like give me some way to enchant a Nightmare Dungeon sigil or an Infernal Horde's compass that makes a Torment 4 dungeon or horde 10 times more difficult with 20 times the reward. Or the system that they just introduced now in Season 11, the Divine Gifts. They juice all our content with extra difficulty and reward. That's the perfect template to build off of without resorting to adding yet another difficulty with just bigger numbers. Sure, it is too easy to solve our defense puzzles right now, so how about difficulty modifiers that impose resistance penalties? Or monster affixes that'll lower our resistances, making us want to overcap? Can I go into that Fireforged Chaos Dungeon? It has a modifier of negative 100% to our fire resistances. Can my build handle that? Or how about we get rid of all those silly elixirs that let us get a bunch of armor and resistances, and players can keep them up 100% of the time at endgame, since it's effectively just an annoying part of itemization that requires basic chores to upkeep. Now, aside from that, we learned that some kind of solo self-found is indeed coming to Diablo 4. This is ridiculously huge news, and if I had to guess, it'll be a self-found mode, but not solo. In other words, it's just going to stop you from trading, but it won't stop you from playing with others or like give you a private instance kind of thing. And this is so that there can be a self-found leaderboard on the tower so that you know that the people topping the tower earned all their gear themselves, it wasn't handed to them, or they didn't buy it off of the gray market. Now there's no ETA on this mode, it's just confirmed to be something in the works. Huge win right here. Another big win, Sanctification. They are removing the Indestructible outcome and replacing it with something positive. That's huge for Sanctification. Also, higher quality items like Mythics will have less chances of getting bad outcomes, like re-rolling one of your good affixes. We also learned that the 5-minute boss fights in the tower, yeah, that was a bug. Boss health was not properly scaling, so we're going to be seeing about a 60% nerf to boss health. That's great, because that was like possibly my only complaint about the tower. Also, the capstone bosses, their resilience mechanic is being removed. Those fights could be needlessly drawn out if you went in there underleveled, so that's a good change. Oh, and about the extra affix that we're getting on legendary gear, I had said that these legendary affixes are uninteresting relative to tempered affixes, right? We're losing one tempered affix but gaining just an extra main affix. Well, they're adding cooldown reduction as an affix now you can get on gloves and rings. Cooldown is a cool stat and very powerful, and being able now to stack cooldown in 3 extra itemization slots is huge. They also changed the weight of how often cooldown rolls, making it come up more often now. They also hinted at more significant changes coming to crafting in the future, also major updates to the skill tree. Then relative to the test server, pit scaling is going to be changed for Season 11 release. We'll be able to push about 5 to 10 pit levels higher than we were pushing on PTR, and they estimate that most builds should be able to clear a pit 85. Also, tower tiers will not be tied to pit tiers. There was this weird thing on PTR. I wasn't a fan of it when I discovered it, where completing a tower level did not actually unlock the next tower level. You had to complete a pit level, like you had to do a pit 100 in order to try a tower 100, which sucked because some builds are better at the tower than at the pit. So like I can probably do a tower 100, but because I couldn't even do a pit 95, there was no way to even try to do a tower 100. So yeah, it turns out that wasn't intended, and tower progression will become independent. We can just push tower, which is great. Also, while there are currently no rewards for the tower, we learned that they will be adding special awards for top leaderboard performers in the future, including special titles, special colors and fonts, even rare Halo cosmetics. They don't want to add these in just yet. They want to wait for the tower to be stable and balanced and fair, which makes total sense. Also, the Duriel maggots were apparently dropping too many XP globes. That was a bug on PTR. I'm not fully sure I understood what's going on here, but I think the takeaway is that we're not going to be getting as many of those XP globes in Helltide anymore, but to compensate, to not slow down leveling, they're going to be adjusting the XP curve. So I still think that Season 11 leveling will be faster than Season 10, 1 to 60. On the topic of more stash space, they said stay tuned. They also are apparently actively looking into loot filters. And when asked about Paladin, they joked around and said, I think Crusader's a fun class. Now, I fully expect that the next class in D4 will be a Paladin-like class. I've thought this for a long time. I just wasn't sure if it would literally be called a Paladin, or if it would be called something like Crusader or Templar or whatever. But the fact that they are joking about Crusader, I think that rules out Crusader, and I really think the Paladin will just be a Paladin. Oh, and they also mentioned that we should definitely watch the Game Awards on December 11th, which basically cements the theory that the expansion will be announced there. So at that point, we'll know for sure about the Paladin. Then in some quick BlizzCon news, early bird tickets went on sale this week for BlizzCon 2026, which takes place September 12th and 13th of next year. The discounted early bird tickets have all been sold out, and the next chance to buy tickets will be on November 18th. But if you folks saw my unboxing video short that I posted earlier this week, you know that I have a couple passes to give away. You can join my Discord, discord.gg/Rhykker, where I will have an announcement soon on how you can win a ticket. Also, do check out that short I posted. I had fun making it. You get to watch me be a silly goof. Oh my god. What is this? What is this, asbestos? Then in some quick World of Warcraft news, game director Ian Hazikostas has once again denied that Blizzard is working on a console version of WoW. On the Unshackled Fury podcast, he said, quote, "Our focus remains on the PC-based experience," adding that if they were planning to bring WoW to other platforms, they'd say that they were actively working towards that. Now, do remember that WoW is now owned by Microsoft. And Microsoft, as we spoke about last week, wants its next Xbox to be an everything box that can run Windows and therefore run PC games. So I do believe we'll have WoW on the next gen Xbox, with development still focused on the PC experience. And it just so happens that the PC experience can be experienced on the next gen Xbox. Check out last week's video for more details on the next gen Xbox. In Path of Exile news, I got to try the newest Keepers of the Flame League, and I love it. Definitely a strong league. The league mechanic is fun and also very rewarding. I will say that I don't love that you fail at closing breaches until later on in the campaign. I know it's by design, but to a new player, failing at something the game throws at you communicates that you are doing something wrong. I understand that the intent is supposed to be that it's this way so that we then feel good when we are finally able to close the breaches. You know, we stop failing at that thing, but I just think this needs to somehow be better communicated in-game if that's the case. I actually much preferred and really enjoy the Defend Ailith events during the campaign, but I understand that those kind of become a nightmare in mapping, with Ailith dying way too easily. Also, knocking down all the walls ahead of time is starting to get a little tedious. The Womb Tree, though, that's an awesome mechanic, a solo self-found player's dream. I've never been able to craft myself more specific stuff before. It's so great. And it's just so cool as well. They did an amazing job executing the vision of this thing. The arm grafts are also really cool. The visual of the extra arms, just so over-the-top awesome. And I hear the Foulborn uniques add a lot of build variety as well. Then getting asynchronous trade into PoE 1 is fantastic. Who would have thought that PoE 2 would end up making PoE 1 even better? Plus, the Deckard Cain free identify NPCs, such great quality of life to finally come to PoE. And to address the complaints about Ailith dying too easily, GGG has stated that they are working on making Hive Fortress encounters easier to complete and less punishing if you fail them. Ailith will create skills more frequently during Hive Fortress encounters. They're increasing the internal cooldown for which she can be damaged, so she's not going to just be burst down in a couple of seconds. Also, ranged monsters now have to be closer to attack her. And if you fail a Hive encounter, you'll get the loot of all the monsters that you killed up to that point. You just won't get any graft blood or womb gifts. They also noticed people were having issues with the loot drops in some endgame scenarios, so loot buffs are coming to fix the issue. GGG is super on top of everything. They're also aware that people are annoyed at all the walls to destroy, so they're looking into a way to allow us to destroy most of them right away. They're also planning to add a bunch more Foulborn uniques in the next patch. Just incredible. All of these are great changes that should address a lot of the frustration that I've seen. Not that there's a lot in general. Again, the league seems really well received overall. But how about you folks? How are you liking the new league? Sound off in the comments. Then in some Grand Theft Auto 6 news, it's been a tumultuous week. Between 30 and 40 employees were laid off, and as per developer Rockstar, it was due to leaking company secrets. As per Rockstar, these employees violated company policy by sharing information on a forum that included non-employees. Now, after the employees were laid off, the Independent Workers' Union of Great Britain organized protests, claiming that Rockstar had committed the most ruthless act of union busting in the history of the UK games industry. You see, the employee side of the story is that they didn't leak anything. All they did was discuss unionizing on a private Discord with other employees and a union representative. They allegedly were all brought into a meeting with HR and fired on the spot. No warning, no chance to defend themselves. And given we have seen no leaks about the game itself surface, despite almost 40 people apparently leaking company secrets, I'm inclined to believe the employees here. An anonymous employee posted to the GTA fan forums, and this employee's identity was allegedly vetted by a reputable senior admin of the forums who historically has supported Rockstar, so inclined to trust him here, assuming he wasn't just duped by someone. But this alleged employee said, quote, "Last week, my colleagues who were in the studio were each individually messaged by HR for a short, friendly meeting, under the friendly guise of, 'Hey, are you free for a quick chat?' Upon attending this meeting, they were handed an envelope with a short letter stating that their employment had been terminated for, quote, 'gross misconduct regarding posts made in Discord.' They failed to provide any evidence when asked, nor was any stated in the letter, and it did not divulge any other information or reasoning, and no other reason. They refused their right to union representation in the disciplinary meeting, which is against UK employment law, and they were frog-marched out of the studio, with the meeting lasting less than 5 minutes. Let me make this clear. I never saw any discussion or leaking of Rockstar projects in the union Discord. The only ever discussion was around unionization efforts and the working conditions at Rockstar. The Discord wasn't public. It was a private Discord group that only contained Rockstar employees with the IWGB union officials. Everyone fired was a union member. They were also predominantly from those who were on the union organizing committees of each UK studio. Just 1 week before, the union had reached about 200 members, taking us over the 10% threshold required to seek recognition and begin engaging in collective bargaining. They have now fired over 34 of us. There were over 250 of us in that union employee Discord group. For colleagues who were not in the studio that day, they received a phone call from HR that lasted less than 2 minutes, telling them they were fired and that they'd received the same letter as above. I'm aware of one employee who had a panic attack at this moment, and HR hung up on them during this panic attack, not caring at all about their well-being. Well, of course, HR is there to protect the company, not to help the employees, sadly. I mean, it's right there in the name, human resources. They see humans as resources to exploit. Anyway, so allegedly here, the employees were on the verge of reaching the magic number, or I guess they just had reached that magic number, of union members necessary for Rockstar to be legally forced to recognize their union, and then bam, a major culling, removing 20% of their members and sending a clear message to anyone else considering joining the union. Now, the UK has pretty strict laws to protect employees here. If Rockstar doesn't have concrete evidence of their claims, the fired employees can take Rockstar to court and win. The thing is, Rockstar likely doesn't care, because Rockstar will just settle out of court, because paying off a settlement fee to 34 employees, or former employees, is a lot cheaper than allowing a union to form in the long run. Also possibly the reason why they didn't just fire everyone, because then that's more people to pay off. Anyway, following this, news broke that GTA 6 is being delayed from its planned launch date of May 26, 2026. Its new launch date is November 19th, 2026. Though at this rate, it would not surprise me to see another delay take it into 2027, which means we could be looking at 2028 before we're playing this on PC. So, do we think the game was delayed because of the lost manpower, or was the delay announcement timed to shift the narrative focus away from union busting? Am I being too tinfoil hat here? Then, in an update on the Stop Killing Games movement, thanks to all the public support that it has garnered, the campaign was debated in the UK Parliament. Multiple members of Parliament, I think it was like 24 or something, they went to bat for the movement, providing strong arguments for it, and doing a bang-up job of actually representing the voice of the people. That's, like, functional government? What? It's not just a bunch of old people who have to ask their nephews how to turn on their computers? The Stop Killing Games movement specifically calls for laws that stop games that rely on online servers from being shut down without any ways to keep them playing. They brought up games like Multiversus, The Crew, and Concord as examples of this happening. In Concord's case, Sony issued refunds to consumers, but legally they didn't have to. So, imagine you pay full price for a game like Concord, and then literally 2 weeks later, you can't play it anymore. The only reason Sony gave refunds was so that its reputation wouldn't be in the gutter. Stop Killing Games is not demanding that publishers keep supporting their games or servers forever. The ask here is just that publishers cannot deploy some kill switch that bricks your game, leaving paying customers with literally nothing. Before everything became a games as a service, we had peer-to-peer multiplayer, or even just offline modes. If Blizzard shut down tomorrow, right? Is there any good reason why Diablo 4 could not run locally on your machine without connecting through Battle.net? Unfortunately, despite their arguments, the government representative suggested that there would be no changes to UK law around this issue. Seems the big video game publishers and their propaganda got to her, as she cited the prohibitive costs of maintaining online services and the harmful unintended consequences for players if we were to have our own unmoderated servers. Oh, won't someone please think of the children? How could they possibly survive in an unmoderated hellscape where people imply that they fornicated with their mother? Then in some Borderlands 4 news, we had a small update this week, really nothing major, mostly just the change in weekly activities. Meanwhile, we're still waiting on some major performance and quality of life improvements. In an interview with The Game Business, the CEO of Borderlands publisher Take-Two has admitted that sales weren't as high as they wanted, despite the game getting critical acclaim from reviewers. He cited issues with the Steam launch, which could only refer to the performance issues, so it's a bit surprising that there hasn't been a bigger push to remedy all that. But what has been your Borderlands 4 experience, folks? Because I personally did not really experience performance issues, but have any of you? Then there's been a very unexpected development in the Nintendo Palworld copyright lawsuit. The director of the US Patent Office has ordered that his organization take another look at one of Nintendo's patents that was just granted in September after initially being filed in 2023 to try to take down Palworld. The craziest part here is that no one asked him to do this. He decided to do this himself, likely because of the internet discourse that's been ongoing about Nintendo's patent bullying. It is incredibly rare for the director to order a re-examination of a granted patent. As per GamesFray, the last confirmed occurrence of this was in 2012. So who knows? Seems like Nintendo's case is weakening by the month. And quickly, in case you missed it, Titan Quest 2 recently got an update that added character appearance customization. Nice little feature I was looking forward to. Now folks, do be sure to have checked out last week's video in which we discussed my feedback on the Season 11 test server and why I felt that Season 10 may still be the most fun season. Because that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Patreon supporters for making these videos possible. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to join Rhykkers Raiders for more gaming content.